きてり込む手がふらる閉じにはやらせんで手めききの酒この尻時もこれて漏れちての魂で明日の君きなけのくしゃそわの襟だけ進め嘘ましめりもそれなり守りたい世界いやこうてて吠えてゆけ金がされも言わずつか燃える心は地も所が近いコントロールすげて回るよな
10 days later, Goku was meditating under a tree. They had already had lunch and had left. The curious thing is that the Shin was not exhausted or anything like that, as the training he had today was to improve his use of ki. What are you thinking about? Miu asked as she approached after having washed the dishes. Goku opened his eyes, stopping his meditation, and looked at his girlfriend. I have improved and learned a lot these days. That's how I felt when I started training with Was when I was little, Miu replied as a smile began to form on her face. Do you want a rematch? She asked the Sien, who smiled. You roared. She exclaimed as she stood up and transformed into a Super Sien. There is a big difference since the last time, thought Miu as she leveled her power to that of Goku in order to enjoy the fight. Ready? Asked the dark-haired one as he got into a fighting stance. Miu, come here! Shouted Goku as he lunged at Miu and punched, creating a shockwave that made the birds in the area fly away. Miu smiled and grabbed the Saiyajin's fist while she was pulling him towards her to headbutt him. She screamed after the head collision. How hard is your head? She shouted while recovering and avoiding a punch from Goku that was aimed directly at her face, counterattacking with a kick to the ribs before appearing above the Saiyajin and striking him on the head with both hands, sending him crashing to the ground and creating a not-so-big crater. Little by little, he is increasing his power and he keeps up with me without even being able to feel my ki. You are amazing, darling, Miu thought from the sky as she watched the dust being raised. Hey, Goku shouted, quickly launching a Kamehameha which Miu stopped with one hand. I won't fall for something like this twice, said the goddess of destruction as she pulled her other free hand back to stop a blow from Goku. The Sien started to scream as a golden aura began to surround him and started to push Miu back. What? Her power suddenly increased? He whispered with an enormous surprise on his face. Take this. Goku shouted, grabbing Miu's right wrist to pull her towards him and with his other free hand, hit the face of the goddess of destruction with a ki ball, finishing with another quick Kamehameha, sending Miu crashing into a mountain that was about 200 meters away, which was destroyed by the impact of the technique. Oh, I think I got too emotional, Goku whispered as he flew to see how Miu was doing. Upon arriving at the impact zone, he saw his partner without any injuries, but her clothes were somewhat torn. Miu disappeared from where she was and appeared in front of Goku to give him a short kiss, which turned into a long and loving one for both of them. This time you have won, Miu told him after they kissed seriously. Goku said, surprised and somewhat happy. Yes, look at yourself, since our last meeting you have improved considerably. I even think you have mastered the Super Saiyan, right? Master it? Hee, did you notice? He said while scratching his head awkwardly as he returned to his base form. So you thought I wouldn't notice? And tell me how you came up with that, I asked with some curiosity. Well, was the one who noticed that I was using energy excessively, and that made it so I couldn't use my full potential, Goku explained in a descriptive way. I see. No wonder you spent a few days like a Super Saiyan telling me you wanted to be blonde for a few days, I said, making a pout. I'm sorry. I wanted to surprise you, Miu, and be worthy of you, said the Saiyan while apologizing. Ha ha ha, you are a fool. She told him before hugging him and resting her forehead on the Saiyan's chest. You don't have to become stronger to be worthy of me. I love you as you are. I don't care about the power you have. I will always love you. But what I do want is to be truly worthy of you. I feel like I don't deserve you, she said while lowering her head. Goku took her by the chin so she could see him. You are a goddess, Miu, and I am an ordinary being. You don't understand, she shouted, pushing him a little as tears began to roll down Miu's cheeks. I am a goddess of destruction, Goku. My duty is to destroy planets to maintain balance in the universe, she yelled as she started to CRYD destroy planets? Goku exclaimed in surprise as he took a few steps back. Yes, I'm a mess, I know. But it's my duty as a destructive goddess, she said, trying to stop crying even though her body trembled, feeling vulnerable, especially not knowing how Goku would react. Don't say those things, Miu. You're not a terrible person just because it's your duty to destroy. I'm sure if you don't do it, the universe would suffer consequences. Goku told her before wrapping her in a hug. Miu was surprised by what the Saiyan said, and a small smile began to form on her face, but it didn't last long as she moved away from him a bit again. That you must know it, Goku. This has been eating away at me inside for a few days, and I can't stand it anymore, Miu said as her breathing started to quicken and her nerves heightened even more. What's happening? What should I know? Asked Goku with a bit of worry. The truth about planet Vegeta, shouted Miu, and Goku opened his eyes in surprise. The planet where you were born. It wasn't destroyed by a meteorite. It was destroyed by Frieza, whom I ordered to do it, he said the last part, closing his eyes in fear. Tell me one thing. What was the reason for you to order the destruction of the planet where I should have grown up with my parents? Said the latter with a little anger. Miu opened her eyes with total sadness, looked at the Saiyan, who was noticeable to be somewhat angry. The Saiyans were wiping out various races of the universe. They invaded planets and then sold them. They didn't care about ending the lives of old people, children. They did it anyway. Do you think I would allow something like that? Even that Frieza, you piece of scum, just like your father. I'm going to destroy it, Miu said as a huge anger began to come out of her. So you have eliminated the planet Vegeta and wiped out the Saiyan race, although a few are still alive, Goku said seriously as he approached Miu. Who is that guy Frieza? A scum of the universe that I will eliminate as soon as I see him, Miu replied before sighing and calming down. I understand. Do you think we should skip the shower? Said Goku, who received a quick nod from Miu, and both returned to the house. They both entered the bathroom together for the first time at Miu's suggestion, each soaping the other up and then stepping into the shower. First was Goku, who leaned back, then Miu entered, sitting in front of the Saiyan and leaning against his chest. How did you become the goddess of destruction and also incredibly powerful? Goku asked with his classic smile as he started to stroke her hair. Are you sure you want to know? It's a long story, Miu replied, smiling a little shyly. We have all the time in the world. Besides, I have to know your story, don't you think? He said while bringing his nose close to hers. Miu smiled happily upon hearing the Saiyan and gave him a short kiss. Okay, but then you'll tell me your story, right? Goku, take it for granted, darling, hee. Well, let me see where to start. Oh, I got it. Let's press our foreheads together, and I will guide you through my memories, Miu said while sitting in front of the Saiyan. Goku blushed upon seeing the breasts of the goddess of destruction. who had noticed but knew that sooner or later they would have to see each other. Besides, she had already seen something that made her blush. "So we just touch foreheads and that's it?" the Xian asked, not very sure. "Yes, darling, it's a goddess technique," let Miu puff her chest with pride. They both leaned their foreheads together and then it grew dark. Goku and Miu appeared floating while millions of images surrounded them. "Ready?" Miu asked her while extending her right hand. "Let's do it." He replied with determination, taking her hand. "We will start from the beginning. Questions at the end of the tour please," she said while laughing, since she had taken that from a movie. Flashback millions of years ago. 16 people were gathered around a sort of huge bed where there were 2 newborn children. The first was a girl with white hair and fair skin. The second was a boy with the appearance of a purple cat. Both were asleep, next to their mother who was with them. "So they are the first children of the union of 2 destructive gods," said a figure of a man who had a wild appearance, his black hair reaching halfway down his back and possessing a monkey tail. "Ha, did they call us here just for this nonsense?" exclaimed an annoyed humanoid being with the figure of a goat. "Moro, you must show more respect towards the children of our friends," the previous man exclaimed. "Friends? Ha ha ha, Yamashi, you are mistaken if you think they are my friends or anything like that," replied the being named Moro, who was noticeably quite upset to be there. "You too," called another of the people who was there. It was a woman with white hair, red eyes, and had a kind of tail. "Don't make a fuss, Mirai-sama is coming, so behave." "Tisk, don't get involved, Nin. Moro and I have business to solve," Yamashi replied, looking at Moro angrily. "Shut up once and for all. If you wake up my children I will kill them all no matter what consequences Mirai-sama imposes on me," exclaimed the goddess who was in bed with the 2 babies. Puum, huge doors open revealing 2 figures, one era of the universe's god of destruction 6, Morik, and behind him speaks a woman, whom the gods of destruction barely saw. They knelt before her. "I like your attitude, Diana. I've always told you, if you think they should be eliminated, do it," said the woman with a tone of authority. "But Mirai-sama," exclaimed Yamashi. "Silence!" shouted the named Mirai, and several of the gods began to sweat. "I have gathered you here to make an announcement," she began saying, causing the gods to look at her with concern. Meanwhile, Mirak, the god of destruction from Universe 6, was heading towards his wife, Diana, the goddess of destruction from Universe 7, along with his children. "Dei Shinken, could you please do the honors?" said the goddess of all Mirai, and from the door appeared the high priest. Cough cough. The newborn children of the destroyer gods Diana and Mirak will be trained to become the next destroyer gods of universes 6 and 7 when their parents order it. Their guiding angels and teachers will be from those universes. In other words, Whis and Vados. "What?" several gods exclaimed. "Thank you, Dei Shinken, you may go notify your children," Mirai told him. "As you command, Mirai-sama," replied the father of the angels before departing. "My destructive gods, I hope you continue to do the great work you have been doing. Moro, Uma, Nin, Horus, Yagian, Mirak, Diana, Zoek, Yamashi, Kani, Camus, Arban, Ceres, Neo, Deus, Minerva, Athena, and Sylphius," he said while looking at each one and naming them. Before finishing this meeting, "Diana, what name have you chosen for them?" she said while looking at the children. The goddess of destruction of Universe 7, with great effort, stood up and took the children in her arms. "Mirak named our boy Kampa and I named our girl Miu." Several years later, on a new planet that had just been created, to be the home of the next goddess of destruction, mother and daughter were sitting at the top of a mountain watching the sunset. "Do I really have to be a goddess of destruction?" asked a young Miu, who physically looked like a 9-year-old girl. "Yes honey, But don't worry, Whis can help you with your work, Diana was saying, trying to cheer up her daughter, who sighed resignedly and then looked at the older white-haired woman. Mother, how did you meet my father? The young Miu asked. Honey, what is that question about? Her mother said with a bit of curiosity, it's just that. I wonder if I will also be able to fall in love with someone. You are the only gods in falling in love, little Miu said, looking at her mother with excitement. Ah, so that's what it was. Well, you see, I met your father when he was still immortal. I used to like fighting against strong guys. One day he showed up and I challenged him to a duel in which I lost. But I think that during those hours of combat, we fell in love with each other, she replied, then gave her daughter a loving hug. Muum, she exclaimed with a small embarrassed smile. One day you will meet someone who will make you feel strange. You will think about them all the time, and your heart will race 1,000 miles an hour when you see them. When that happens to you, you will know that you fell in love. He whispered in her ear in a calm tone, I love you, Mom. I don't want you to go, exclaimed Miu while tightly hugging her mother as she began to cry. Diana felt her heart break in half as she saw and heard her daughter crying. She didn't want to leave, she wanted to stay, to see her grow up and become a woman, as well as a powerful goddess of destruction. But Mirai had promoted her to be the leader of the Royal Guard, a group of 5 powerful gods to maintain order in reality itself against any threat, as they didn't want another disaster to arise. I don't want to leave either, my girl, but Mirai-sama's orders are absolute, but it won't be a goodbye forever, it will be a goodbye for now, said Diana, making her daughter look up to see her in the eyes. Sniff, see you soon, Sniff, I asked doubtfully. The day will come when we will reunite, and on that day I will meet the great woman you will become, I told her while I began to tear up. Seriously? You swear to me? She said with hope and a half smile. I promise you, he replied while showing her his little finger. It will be our promise, said Miu as she joined her pinky with her mother's. Years passed. There was a teenager Miu walking with difficulty while carrying a kind of black box tied to her wrists, as the path behind her was disappearing. Faster, Mrs. Miu, or you'll fall into the void, shouted Whis as he watched his student train. Shut up! Aya! She screamed, straining to walk several more meters, until the training materials fell to the ground. Well done, Mrs. Miu, said the angel as he made the training box disappear. Now yes, Whis, find me rivals to go test my strength, exclaimed the goddess of destruction with a smile. Ho ho ho, you haven't changed, Mrs. Miu. You are identical to your mother, Whis responded with a nostalgic look while Miu felt proud of herself after receiving such praise since she admired her mother very much. Thousands of years later, those Sians are making a mess in the universe. Who do they think they are to wipe out a population? They disgust me, and that King Vegeta thinks he's all that. I should put an end to them. But they are too far away, he said, sighing with annoyance. Mrs. Miu, why don't you ask someone to take care of it? Suggested Whis while the image of someone appeared from his staff. Who is that? Asked the goddess of destruction, raising an eyebrow. He is the one who orders the Sians what to do. His name is Frisia, the angel replied seriously. He surely uses them for his own benefit. Good that he takes care of the Sians, he said cheerfully. While Miu continued to talk with Whis, the oracle fish appeared and seemed to be in a hurry. Miss Miu. It was shouting as it approached. Miu directed her gaze towards the oracle fish. Oh, it's you. What do you need? Mrs. Miu. I just had a vision and you were in it, he said nervously. Really? And what did you see? She asked with curiosity while Whis tried to locate Freezer. In 20 years, a powerful arch-rival will appear. A Super Saiyan god, exclaimed the oracle fish. Really? Awesome! Finally, someone will appear. Whis, hurry up already so when I come back I can sleep through those years. She shouted, a bit anxious and annoyed at the same time. That same night, the goddess of destruction was sleeping and would do so for 20 years. Meanwhile, Whis was playing chess with the oracle fish. Do you think your vision will come true? Seriously, a Super Saiyan god? Whis asked. Serious Lighthat's right. I'm not mistaken, he replied before moving a piece. I find it unlikely. I haven't seen a Super Saiyan god since Yamashi millions of years ago, said Whis after sighing. But there is something I hid from Mrs. Miu, said the fish, drawing Wiss's attention. Seriously, have you hidden something from him? You know what he will do if he finds out, right? Ho ho ho, listen to me, this arch-rival will be the love you have been waiting for during these millions of years, said the fish, surprising Whis. What? I exclaimed with huge astonishment, and a flashback. Goku and Miu separated their foreheads after the memories had finished. Wow. I don't know what to say, Goku said while processing things. Hee, it's okay darling. You can always ask me anything. Now it would be my turn, right? Miu asked, smiling. True, but I don't have that ability, Goku was telling his partner. It's okay this time. You'll guide me, he said kindly while bringing his head close to the Saiyan, and both appeared in his mind, where he guided Miu through his memories as she had done. Author's note: I will not tell Goku's story since it is the same, only that he rejected Milk and Bulma gave him the house and the credit card. I feel guilty that you didn't grow up with your parents, Miu said while separating her forehead from the Saiyan's. Relax, it was for the best or else I wouldn't have met you, right? Goku was asking while he stood up to get out of the shower. Miu blushed a lot and turned to look away since she had seen the Saiyan's lower part again, who dried himself and put on a robe. I'll order pizza for dinner. Does that sound good? He asked as he walked towards the door. Why yes, pizza will be fine, Miu replied, and then the Saiyan came out of the bathroom. Instantly she also got out of the shower, dried herself, and put on the robe. Something peculiar was that Goku's robe was orange and Miu's was white. It was already 11 at night and both had gone to bed, still wearing their bathrobes since Miu had suggested wearing them to feel more comfortable, to which Goku could not deny that it was indeed more comfortable to be like this. I love you, Miu told him before giving the Saiyan a short kiss, but as they separated, Goku kissed her again, but this time with passion, causing the goddess of destruction's heart to start racing. They separated due to lack of air and then kissed again, but this time a battle of tongues ensued with Miu as the victor, who began to give him many short kisses and then kissed down the Saiyan's neck, going down to his chest. They stayed looking at each other for a few seconds before Goku got up to kiss Miu, who began to take off the Saiyan's robe while he started kissing her around the neck, trying to take off Miu's robe with his hands. They both did it out of inertia. When they were left naked, Goku no longer knew what to do. The only one who knew how to continue was Miu, who was biting her lip. Goku, please, she said as she lay down beside the Saiyan. Let's make love, she said with a huge blush. The Saiyan didn't quite understand what to do, so he got on top of her and kissed her passionately. Both their blood was boiling, and their breathing was getting faster and faster. My love, she whispered while biting her lip, and seconds later, she turned to the Saiyan as she positioned herself on top of him. What are you doing? He asked curiously while breathing heavily. Note: I will remove the lemon to avoid problems with YouTube, the creator in the description. That felt wonderful, Miu said while resting her head on the Saiyan's chest. So this is making love. Can we do it again? Goku asked the blonde girl, who looked at him still blushing and nodded. The Saiyan smiled and then left Miu under him. The goddess understanding what he wanted to do, the Saiyan opened his legs inviting her to enter. At the moment of doing so they both moaned with pleasure. Goku began to ram her hard, making Miu's breasts bounce. This had hypnotized the Saiyan, making him excite even more. At one point Miu hugged the Sin's waist with her legs and ran her hands around his neck after the enormous excitement and pleasure, so much so that she already had a lost look and was only moaning. The moment they came again, Miu lost her mind and was guided by pleasure, since the Sin despite having come was still penetrating it, and if it was for one more hour. Until he couldn't take it anymore while Miu that night slept peacefully as she had never done before. The next day Miu, who was overflowing with happiness, was preparing breakfast. You could even hear her whistling a melody. "Good morning, Miu," said Goku as he entered the kitchen. The goddess turned to look at him and went to give him his good morning kiss. "How did you wake up, my tiger?" she said, winking before going back to continue preparing breakfast. "Very well, after what happened last night, I slept like a baby he said, scratching the back of his neck. "I also slept like never before," Miu replied while making some scrambled eggs. Knock knock, Goku went to open the door. "Good morning, Mr. Whis," he said cheerfully. The angel felt something different about him, even his key seemed different. It was not the aggressive one he always had, now it was calm. "Good morning, Mr. Goku. How are you feeling for today's training?" said Whis as he entered the house and headed to the kitchen. "Wonderful!" exclaimed Goku with a smile. Upon arriving in the kitchen, Whis nearly dropped his jaw to the floor upon seeing Miu cooking more energetically than usual, while whistling and even doing a little dance. "Oh Whis, you arrived early," said Miu as she saw him and quickly went to greet him so that the breakfast wouldn't burn. "Very well. Something certainly happened here," said Whis, gaining the attention of both. "Why does he say that?" asked Goku while setting the table. "Both seem happier than usual," replied Whis, looking at them both. It's because last night we gave ourselves to each other," said Miu, downplaying it to sound cool in front of Whis. It turns out Mrs. Miu is quite the tease," he said with a blush while teasing his disciple. "Try to be clever and you won't have breakfast." Miu quickly replied, "Mr. Goku, how can I help you?" she asked Goku, who continued bringing things to the table. Somewhere in the universe. "How much longer?" shouted a rather irritated Bulma. "Mr. Popo told us it would be a month, so we have a couple of weeks ahead," Krillin replied while exercising. I should have brought some entertainment," exclaimed Bulma as she sat down with her arms crossed. Unknown place outside a planet, there was a ship that belonged to the cruelest person in the universe. "Lord Frieza, did you summon me?" asked one of his most trusted soldiers. "Zarbon, I want you to contact the Jinya Special Forces and tell them to start gathering the Dragon Balls that are on Namek," he said while looking out into space through the window. "As you command, Mr. Freezer," answered the called Zarbon as he exited the cabin. "Soon my wish will be fulfilled, ho ho ho," Freezer was saying, laughing with great malice.